So it should be quick.
And there's 4 attendees also.
Okay.
All right, sir, we're all set.
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call the March Madison Board of Police Commission to order. And we'd like to start, as we always do, with a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
and to the
republic
for
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
God,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
I think that was actually better than.
Oh, you do? I think it was worse. Oh,
We are really getting good at it, I think. I'd like to formally welcome John Picard, who's the liaison with the Board of Finance. John, delighted to have you be part of this august group, and really appreciate you taking the time to help work with us as we go through this process. So welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. First order of business, is there a motion to accept the February minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Second. Are there any changes, omissions, additions?
Mr. Chairman, there's a couple of, there were spelling with, during a discussion. I'm going to get those to Christy Hodge directly, if I may.
Then,
the content, the point made and the content is fine.
okay. Well, let's do this. Let's defer the acceptance of these minutes, Chief, until you have the edits in, so we have one official version. So let's have a motion. I'd like to entertain a motion to postpone the approval of the February minutes to our April meeting, give the edits time to be introduced.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move the minutes.
Thank you, sir.
I understand we have some members of the public or other interested parties in attendance. Welcome. If you would like to make public comments, this is the appropriate time. If you could identify yourself and your address, and then Captain Race will manage the behind the scenes technology to get you included so we can all hear you. Okay. Is there anyone that has would like to make any public comments at this time? Okay, hearing none. Chief, why don't we move into your chief's report?
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I just want to make a note that our president of the union, Rob Strickland, is a participant in the audience tonight. Rob, thank you for joining us.
Welcome, Officer Strickland.
Okay, we're going to start with the budget, and you have a up-to-date within your handouts, that were dropped off at the house or emailed. A lot of the information we have and where you're seeing the negatives has to do with an adjustment that has to take effect at the end of March, being done by HR. So I'm going to walk us through this. We have what is a fact is we spent about $78,000 over the general budget to cover overtime. A lot of the overtime replaced patrol. It also replaced 2 vacancies in the agency, and it covered most of the patrols through the middle of the summer into the fall in regards to COVID. You might recall that we had additional patrols, particularly on the shoreline roads. Just for a point of information, we did approximately 1,187 calls for service related to the beach roads in 1 year. starting with January of 20 to January of 2021. Acid influences on that was approximately 487. Those are about 25%. The calls on the beach roads between the Surf Club and Acid, that's about a 45% increase in calls for service. So that's a big impact on the budget. One of our officers retired effective the end of January, Jason Dolce, and effective the first week of April, we're losing Scotty Pardalis, who's retiring to return to his Marine Corps days. He's going to be working with security within a Marine Corps base down in South Carolina. He's going to be a civilian rank of captain, and he's going to be working with the provost marshal there with the police agency. And congratulations and thank you to Scotty for all that he's done for the town of Madison. The news that I'm going to share with you is that Scotty will be gone for approximately 6 pay periods before we finish this fiscal year. Jason Dolce will be absent due to his retirement, approximately 11 pay periods. What does that mean? That means that we have about 52,000 in unencumbered funds, which after the adjustments were made by HR, I'm going to do a line transfer through the Board of Finance to move that to our overtime line to mitigate that expense. I don't anticipate filling those ranks between now and July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
Yes. So let me ask you, so we're going to move regular salary to deal with the excess overtime because of the increased service demands. So if those increased service demands from 2020 also occur in 2021, how's our 21 budget look? Because presumably we may not have the flexibility to move regular salaries over to an overtime budget if the service levels that jump 25% or 45% occur at the same rate.
Those are due to most of those influences have to do with one, the response to COVID and the influx of people into the town of Madison, particularly the beach areas. And second, the loss of 2 officers to patrol. So
Okay.
to answer so we anticipate filling those 2 positions, and we may have 2 more officers retire as of July 1st. They haven't given us a definitive answer yet. As far as COVID, I think people were probably hoping during the budget process that this will end prior to the summer. I'm not a believer of that. I believe it's probably going to continue into the fall at a minimum. As long as there's still a declaration, we'll seek reimbursement for that funding. But I can't give you a definitive answer. I mean, when you might recall during the budget process, we were still have to replace 1 officer. We never replaced the second SRO. They asked if I could forego that because there was a question as to, we don't know where we're going to be with COVID, during COVID, with our collection rates in town government. So we were team player and we said, we'll make do. They would rather do an appropriation to backfill overtime than to fill another position at this time. That's where we're at today. And that's why the budget went forward the way it did with the small increase. And if we have a shortage, they're going to ask for special appropriation.
Okay, so I guess that's the answer. If the overtime continues, overtime demand continues at the same rate this summer as it was from last summer, which clearly there was I've got to get out of the house COVID reaction. And I think you're right. I think that same, or at least some of that mentality is going to continue, right? I don't think we're going to have that level of, an extraordinary, I think the vaccination rate is going to improve. So I guess the bottom line is we still anticipate some increased patrol demand in Madison, dealing with Hammonasset State Park, dealing with the shoreline thoroughfare, and I guess question, and John, some of this may fall in your area, if there's a COVID relief aspect, then that's a little bit of the life ring we hope we can get.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Ed, along those lines, the town has announced we're going to have a fireworks display this year, which obviously requires a lot of hands on deck. Where will that come from, Chief, in the budget?
Tom, I didn't hear the beginning of your statement, your question. It was, I
Okay,
think, when
the
you,
town announced this week there's going to be a fireworks display.
yes,
Where in the budget will that be assigned with all the officers on deck?
the fireworks is generally paid by the vendor.
No.
And we use external officers, other agencies also that are part of our mutual partners. So that's a wash. If it happens, that's the wash.
Excuse me, John, you were just providing some information about the COVID relief.
Yeah, that's all I was going to bring up, and the chief touched on it. I mean, obviously, we're going to be looking for COVID relief. It's quantifying, the difference in the OT. So I do agree with that, and then obviously, we get the relief; it'll help offset the expense. So obviously, we're all in the same team and looking to help. But I think that's a big component of that is getting reimbursed for the expenses.
Okay, sorry, Chief. Go ahead.
Okay, I mean, if you comparative analysis, and I agree with the way Peggy presented it, was that, it's going to cost you $100 something to put an officer together. It's going to cost us 60, 70 in overtime as we get through COVID annually. We'd rather go with appropriation for the lesser amount, particularly if we're worried about collection rates. We don't want to have to lay any officers off if
Agreed.
something happens. So that's the reason it's being done this way, as we discussed previously.
Okay.
But I just want to add this. So we went to, I use the term, we went to battle again. We spoke with the Department of Environmental Protection for the state of Connecticut. And this is, I'm sorry, maybe it's my frustration, but I've had this conversation since the day I walked in this place. You folks at one time got $1.25 million in pilot funds for all things Hammonasset. That's less than $300,000 now. If you add up what it cost us to do this, we love it. We think it's great. I think the businesses like the increase in business. However, it cost us money to answer those 400 plus calls. We sent an ambulance, fire trucks, cops. We're there. They put a skeleton crew in there. And quite frankly, and it's probably a bold statement, they don't care, because we brought this up time after time after time. So hats off to Peggy, because she's reached out to them on 2 occasions. She's compiling a letter, factual. And my last question to them when we met with them is, I listened to all the, different approaches management-wise from the state of Connecticut, and I was very clear and direct. This is all about money. We'd like you to pay for the services we're providing, because at some point, my citizens are going to ask me, Chief, we don't want to spend money we don't have it to send to aid them. They're going to have to do it on their own. So stop sending resources. I don't think we ever want to stop and never answer a 911 call, but the reality of it is it's an expense on the infrastructure of the town of Madison. And it's not just us. It happens in Westport. It happens in Milford, where there's a state park. It happens in Old Lyme with Rocky Neck. It's not fair to the communities. But so most of these people have been in that government still there. And I feel for the econ police and the people that work in the park, because they're the ones that are at a skeleton crew with up to 20,000 plus people. That's a city, that's a town on any given weekend day. It's not right. So I'll stop there on my elevator speech. But we conveyed that last week. We got a letter going up. We're meeting with them again. I said, why don't you just tack it to a bill of special appropriation to the town of Madison for all public safety at the park during the season? End of story.
And you went through deep, but did you go through anybody else, Chief? I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry.
Oh.
We spoke all the way up to the deputy director.
Okay.
And the new director has stepped in. He's a great guy, but he came from Utah. He understands what we're saying, but they're following whatever the directives are. The bottom line is, if I were community, Killingworth, I want to hire a state police officer. It's going to cost me over $100,000 plus a reserve to have that officer in my town. The state already has that mechanism in place. They could do the same thing with putting additional personnel down at the park, state troopers, whatever, and accomplish that task and not drain the resources of the town of Madison. Every time they have a conflagration that shuts down Route 1, we're the ones got to go in there and clear it up. It's not fair. Then we have the ambulance going, the fire truck. The ambulance not get reimbursed for those calls. It's not right.
I agree.
So how many years do we say this?
10. I think we're on our 10th.
We talk about this all the time, but are we able to produce actual financials that show what it costs? Which I don't
Yes.
think we are.
Yes.
So we have a spreadsheet that shows this call, we sent these 2 officers, this is how long they spent.
We broke it down to a 10-slide presentation to them, a la Ross Perot, colors, same response the year before, the same response for the year before, same response from the year before, and so forth. So I just think that, listen, we have our state rep and our senator, hopefully, are able to.
That was, yeah.
Well, our senator now chairs that committee, environment. So, and I'm hoping that, and she works hard, that she could somehow get them to understand this, that you have to do an appropriation to this community because we're creating a burden on them. I'm the one that gets the calls from our seniors that live in the different complexes that are trying to get down Route 1 just to get the groceries. They can't move in the summer. It's not right.
Agreed.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So have we bundled this request along with the other towns that have this issue, that have state parks? Have we joined forces, or is that not doable because we're all in different parts of the state?
We're in different parts of the states. I am not aware of that they have done that. Unless they had a discussion with Council of Small Towns, maybe the New Haven office, because Milford obviously is New Haven, Fairfield County for Westport. I mean, you have wherever they have a community, an organized community, not a resident trooper town. This has a big impact. When you have Route 1, it makes it even worse.
Yeah. The other thing, Ann, I understand that, the relative size of Hammonasset State Park just about dwarfs, every other state park. Rocky Neck is maybe somewhat proximate, but, you've got some small state parks, up on the Housatonic River. I think Indian Neck or Indian Peak is one of them. They might have 200 people there on a weekend,
Right.
So, they tend to say, it's not that big a deal. Or if there is, hey, we've got a state park in our town. We want a piece of that pie if money's going to be spread around. So I don't think we should, just, grind our teeth on this. I think Marietta, the point about how do you put this, continue to use the data we have. Obviously, Peggy, as our previous first selectman, was also very aware of it. Al, you probably, made a few trips up to Hartford yourself in this regard. But it is something that, I think we should continue to pursue, particularly, if there are some dollars that are being related to, COVID issues, that absolutely this past summer, you could not help but notice the extraordinary spike in traffic at Hammonasset State Park, and then the spillover into the town of Madison. I mean, it wasn't just because we had a couple of really hot days. It was this, this was the whole herd migration coming down here. So, Chief, don't give up on it, and maybe Al, John, in terms of liaison with the Board of Finance or the first selectman office, if there needs to be a focused, kind of presentation task force that we can put together to, carry this forward, let's think about doing it.
Would it make sense to talk to the other towns that this impacts across the state and get a group together with all the figures and go to Hartford and meet with people, and I think get some press? I don't think anybody has any idea that this is going on.
I almost think from a public policy standpoint, maybe we need to sit with the governor. All those towns.
That's where I was headed there, Chief. I would actually have, sorry.
To ring that bell, You know, and I listen, Peggy did one heck of a job. She had all the facts, figures. We fed it to her, all the services. We talked the other day. Listen, when Hammonasset closes, then all of a sudden it's like a migration rush to the surf club gets filled to capacity. Almost all the beaches get filled. The influx of all the side streets, Signal Hill, all those roads get filled with cars. We opened up Salt Meadow to somehow facilitate the overflow. Because of the agreement with the state of Connecticut, when we took that over, we're not allowed to charge for parking. We figured that might be a way. That was a consideration. That might offset some of the costs. So we can't do that. But yet, the impact of those parking lots filling up leaves us, example, huge mounds of trash that now the town of Madison now has to clean up, and plus the side streets where people are walking on Route 1. God bless them, they're walking a half mile to the beach, but they're walking on Route 1 with all kinds of implements, obviously chairs, coolers, umbrellas, and they have their children in tow, and they're on Route 1. We're nervous with that. So we're trying to be good neighbors. We're not good neighbors. We've been great neighbors.
Yeah, you got believers here, but maybe picking up a couple of points, maybe we should give some thought in terms of Marietta and John, what you mentioned, putting together a delegation, involve, our representatives and say, it is going to be one that we are going to publicize and then present a request directly to the governor or directly to a legislative leader and say, this cannot continue until there's the absolute crisis. And the crisis is going to be a significant event in Madison. At the same time, there's a significant event at Hammonasset State Park. And, the police officer or the state police are going to be 25 minutes away. And there is going to be an issue that is absolutely going to be not a good outcome. So, Christine? Yeah.
I have a question on this, just like thinking outside the box. And of course, I don't know some of the legalities. Could we do some sort of social media campaign about it? We have like the facts and figures. I mean, people tend to respond to getting some, unfortunately, negative attention, but this is serious, right? This is it could be a serious public health risk, right? I'm just kind of throwing that out there.
I think that's going to upset the people in Hartford if we don't go to them first.
It's just going to
present our case.
Well, I would definitely go to them, but then say like, it's putting our citizens in harm's way to me, right? So go to them first. We've obviously gone to them a lot. I definitely, Mariette, I would say what you said, team up with the other towns, provide it. But if there's nothing in response, what's the point of waiting again, right? How many times are you going to ask and have the same conversation? So I'm just trying to think outside the box there.
Well, I think it has some merit, but I think it's a matter of how should we sequence it? And maybe Al, you and John might give some thought, and if there needs to be a small group, and the chief has some data that between now and our April meeting, come up with, here's kind of a plan of what we'd like to do. Here's how we're going to engage our local legislators, make sure Peggy and the Board of Selectmen are on board, and then say, what is the material that we are going to present to whoever we decide would be the most receptive to it, or at least would accept it, and use that as kind of a, hey, we're not. I don't think we're going to have a different outcome if we sit here and just say, boy, it's the same damn thing happened. So I think if we can put together a little bit of an action plan, I think there's some terrific ideas that have been thrown out here, and let's see how we might be able to do it. Chief?
I like your passion, Ed. I think that this is not an issue that the Madison Board of Police Commissioners should be the advocate for. I think it should be the town of Madison should be the advocate. And I hear the passion, and I think John and I should take up the cause here and deal with our elected officials, both here in the municipal government and our state rep and our state senator. I don't really think that the Board of Police Commissioners is in the best position to be the advocate.
I absolutely agree.
I think
I absolutely agree. I mean, I think we are kind of where the rubber meets the road from an expense and a operational impact. But you know, I think you're right. Elected officials, I think, frankly, are going to have the biggest influence. And one of the things we can do is to provide accurate, relevant data over a multiple period of years. This is not a one-off situation. So if you and John could connect on that, and if whatever support you need, you know, I'll volunteer the chief who already has the data, and let's see what we can do. Chief?
Just
I was gonna say, Al, you have a meeting coming up, and I think John may be involved, Board of Finance, that they're gonna talk about special appropriations, all things COVID, all things summertime. And that was the 2 message boards that we were gonna purchase ahead of what the anticipation was because of Memorial Day. That'd be a good opportunity to have perhaps John Michael Parker, our state rep, and our state senator, Senator Cohen, join us at that meeting. And perhaps even have her, at that point, she could reach out to her contemporaries in the next district, which would be for Milford, and on the other side of the bridge. That might be a good opportunity, because Sam will be in that meeting also with myself. I forgot the date, but it's coming up. It's next week.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, real quick though, and again, I don't want to disagree with everybody saying. I think Al brought up some good points. And Chief, I think if you give us data, what the pilot money was and how it's decreased over the years, and you give us the facts, and I would talk to our state reps and our state delegations, but I would go to the governor. As a matter of fact, I'd have the governor and the lieutenant governor come here one day that you feel it's going to be busy, because we can talk all we want. The actions, the picture will speak 1,000 words. I think if we do this right, you will get more money reimbursed to help offset the expenses. I really believe that. I think, I'm not going to speak for Al, but we'd be happy to take this cause for the Board of Police Commissioners.
Al, can I ask you maybe since you certainly have a connection from the Board of Selectmen and John, Board of Finance, if maybe offline you two can see what the key pieces might be, and again, certainly we would provide any and all data that you would need just from the police department, and probably it'd be easy to get it together for EMS and fire as well. But if we can ask you to do that, and why don't we see where we are at the next meeting? I'll put this on as a future agenda item and see if we can't put together a plan. I think that the connection with our elected representative is critical. And then, to some of the points raised here, what office do we ask them to storm? And do they need?
Don't say that.
Yeah,
Don't say that.
You're right. Yeah, it's very, very appropriate.
I always start with the one
Strike
person
that
that
from
the
the
budget.
minute. Okay, let's
Let's move on.
move on if we could. Chief, training?
Oh, that was vigorous.
Are these
Well,
how they normally
do
go,
we
these
think-
meetings? Just let me
We'll
know.
move on. Activity is the first quarter for activity would be presented in the April meeting. So we'll go to training.
Okay.
If there's any further questions, Captain Race, you're on.
Good evening. So training, like we've been trying to do throughout the course of COVID crisis, we've been really trying to stay ahead of it. We've been doing the best we can to leverage online training with in-person training. So in the month of February, the entire department went through juvenile law training, which included some video and some in-house policy review. We continue to send officers through crisis intervention training. As we know, the idea of de-escalation is a big issue. We've always had a lot of officers, but anyone who hasn't, including our new officers, we're working them through. We continue to train new instructors, Officer Gonzalez as a taser instructor, and Officer Strickland as a baton OC and handcuffing instructor. 4 officers completed their NCIC recertification, which allows them to access the criminal justice databases. And then our SWAT team and K9 teams continued their annual monthly training. But we're doing everything we can to keep ahead of the curve with the training, and again, leveraging that technology aspect.
Okay. Captain, we're still, I presume, totally Zoom in our training.
They have allowed some classes, socially distant classes. They have started recertification through the region, but with the way we've been approaching it, we're doing the majority of it via either video training or Zoom training. We're trying to keep as distant as we possible for our safety.
Okay. Good.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Joe, you might as well continue with the community calendar. I noticed we're adding, we're up to 4 dates right now.
Yes, sir. It's the first day that it got nice out. Everyone decided to reach out, which it's a good thing. I guess it's a slice of normalcy. The Memorial Day festivities, as of right now, there will not be a parade, but they are intending on a ceremony on the green on Memorial Day. We met with the band director and the American Legion yesterday to work on some of the planning. So it does look like something. They will have a ceremony at the very least. But again, no parade. We also have been in contact with the fireworks, which are, I believe, July 2nd, the concert, July 3rd, the parade, July 4th. We have not met with the parade committee yet. I think it's a little early because we don't know what's going to quite happen, but those things are tentatively on the agenda. And we've also started early discussions about the triathlon in September and the turkey trot all the way out and Thanksgiving Day. So it's, again, as of right now, we don't know where they're going to go. So this is very tentative, but there is some movement with some of our events coming back for 2021.
Wow. That sounds quasi-normal.
Quasi.
Yeah. Particularly the, the concert. I guess you can social distance it a little easier with that event. But anyway, well, it'll be interesting to see, what kind of traction the plans have based on the vaccination rate and participants. So, but it's good to start to sound a little, as you said, a little normal with this. Okay. Chief?
Okay, if there are no further questions, regional shared services. I did meet with the town of Clinton, with the chief of the Clinton Police Department. They are going under right now they're with consultant, Mr. Paul Zito, I've worked with before in the state police days. He's doing the consulting for the rebuild of their radio system and the infrastructure. They're also going to seek to go on the state backbone. It was suggested that they merge with some of the equipment with the town of Madison. So I anticipate that at some point we're going to hear further discussions from them. They're meaning initiated by the town of Clinton, not by us, that they're going to request that perhaps we host some of their equipment. We host like we did in the Ridge Road facility, and we have a mutual agreement with them on the fiber optic that goes through there and the microwave on that site, which we use currently already. So we're just going to be at additional towers, and some enhancements to the towers they have within their own community. So undertaking a full radio project, you're talking $7, $8, $9 million for a town like that. So they're trying to look for a way to perhaps share resources with their neighbors. That's all I have in the regional approach, other than Sam DeBurra. He organizes our fire marshal. He organizes a regional weekly meeting, which we're going to do probably monthly now with all our regional partners from essentially Branford, Guilford, Madison, and Clinton. And it's really been it's for sharing information. It's between the police, fire services, and the fire marshals and OEMS directors. So it's been great, and the ambulances. So we're going to continue that, because communication, one thing that came out of COVID is communication among the services has really gone about 110% cooperation. So that's all I have.
Good. Thank you. Correspondence?
I don't have any on my side. I have plenty from March, but I'll share in April.
Okay. Good enough.
I'll give you a preview. It's Neck Road. Go ahead.
Okay. Traffic issues, anything that is left open?
No, everything seems to be going along. There's just one item on the traffic log for Middle Beach Road that we're going to change from pending to complete. And perhaps after the word complete, we're going to add the word forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fat chance with that one.
I'll get it in there, Ed. You just have to support it.
Okay. Okay, well, that is a little unusual. We don't have more traffic issues, but stay tuned.
I need to add to that. The bicycle safety, pedestrian safety group, and I see Virginia Rapp is on the call, is on this meeting. They made a request, Dave Anderson did, that he'd like to have our participation. If they went and got a study as to how to enhance traffic / pedestrian traffic, bicycles, all things roads on our beach roads. And the study, I believe, will be funded for the monies that are set aside for the Greenway Trail. I don't think there's much we could add to other than listen to what somebody maybe external may come up with, something we haven't considered. But right now, based on the studies we have from the state of Connecticut, and additional, I think we're doing the best we can right now. Obviously, we'd love to accommodate and move traffic along and make it safer. So I think Virginia, if I may, if Virginia Rapp's on the call, if she could add some information that if she'd like. If not, I expect, Tom, that we'll be hearing from them shortly to have a meeting if we wish to participate.
Fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any downside to participating. I mean, it's they're certainly going to and should solicit input, and as the local traffic authority, I think we absolutely want to provide information and in some cases opinions, and the likely outcome, not the outcome, but the reality that share some information that has been provided in an earlier study. So absolutely we would participate in if they're going to go forward with another study.
I have a copy, Ed, by the way, of a 2011 traffic report on Middle Beach Road. I'll be happy to bring. Has the same answer.
Okay.
Chief, new business?
Well, current issues. I'm never short meetings during the week. Now that I decided to, just like you decided to share my time with the people in Hartford. So the Police Accountability, Transparency and Accountability Task Force, we generally meet sometimes bi-monthly, but with a minimum monthly. Moving forward, I sit on a subcommittee also for mental health. That seems to be making great headway. In a conjunction with that, based on where I see this is probably going to go, I reached out to University of New Haven, and I'm also would like to reach out to Yale's psychology department, because Yale's also doing the analysis on the studies that were conducted for some of the communities. In January, all the police agencies were required to submit basically a study, self-study or protocol to addressing mental health issues and police calls for service. Madison was one of the 50 agencies that did respond. 40 did not. I'm not sure how they're going to handle that. Of the 50 that responded, 10 stood out. Of the top 2, Madison stood out. We're happy, and hats off to Jeremy York and Captain Race and Lieutenant Perrin for helping putting that together. What I'd like to do is maybe embed MSW students within the police agency on different shifts, pay a stipend. This is not even on a canvas yet. Suggesting some ideas as to how we could accomplish having social workers or licensed clinical within the Madison Police Department. Question came up, I was talking with Dr. Gabry from UNH, who thought it was a great idea. Asked how would they be evaluated? How would the interns be evaluated and essentially managed? And I then reached out to Scott Cochran over at Madison Youth and Family Services. They have the credentials to do that. He just needs some expansion within his budget to accommodate that. So I think we could probably put something together that might be acceptable to the community and acceptable to comply with the statutes in the Police Accountability Act. Obviously, we have time to do this. We're talking 12 months to 18 months out, including training of the officers, all officers on CIT. So that's a big. It's going to be a big undertaking, but that's up front. burner on the Police Accountability Act besides the use of force, which has been put off until another 12 months, possibly up to 18 months to accommodate different training techniques. So from the House Bill 6008, that's about the latest news we have on that.
Okay, if based on the feedback we've gotten from the chief, based on you just reading certain components of the Police Transparency and Accountability Act, the introduction of some support resources on the mental health side, liaison in some way with the police agency is going to happen. And I think the idea that we can have the ability to access and participate in their education and also get the benefit of the skills that they are developing on their own is a absolute positive impact. You know, in healthcare, they run a lot of pretty qualified people, and they call them interns, and you know they're learning their profession and they're also making a contribution. This is somewhat similar, maybe on a lower level, and to the idea that we could access these individuals, you know, on various shifts. I think whether we realize it or not, I'm saying I think we're there. I think we would have some information, and whether it's techniques or approaches, it's viewpoint, insight from some of these individuals while they are gaining and learning the reality outside a classroom. So I think if there is an opportunity and they want a beta test site, we should raise our hand and say, look, we've had very good success when we brought summer interns into Madison, people who were interested in law enforcement in several summers. We had them doing some administrative support work, and the feedback on them was, generally extraordinarily positive. So if this opportunity presents itself, or if we have to invest a little more, Chief, on your side, connecting with some faculty members or program managers, I think it's absolutely going to make sense. It's going to happen. Why not be in a position where we can help design an effective process and get the benefit? They are not, they're not intruders into this agency. I mean, it's going to be something that, I think can be long-term benefit the community, including some individuals in the community that the officers know really need some emotional help and support. And, I think the idea that we can identify, hey, here's a resource, and we'll bring you to the house, and, we'll help you if there's a physical concern or situation that we've got to manage. But anyway, I think it's a win-win situation. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a serious undertaking, and that's just one component of the police accountability bill. I mean, you have 41 points or changes to law there that are going to affect our training, our hiring practice, how we respond to calls. And it's a huge transition of law enforcement throughout this country, let alone the state of Connecticut, which is also going to change as to how we operate and manage this. I don't have, I always try to get out in front on a cost analysis, but there's going to be a cost to it. And I'm sure we in Madison will be able to accomplish the task and cross the finish line, but I wonder how the large cities are going to do.
Yeah.
They're going to have a struggle.
Absolutely.
So
anyway, good. Keep us tuned in.
Okay, that's all I have, sir.
Okay. I think we're at the most exciting part of the meeting, commissioner comments. Marietta?
I am good. I have no comments. Thank you.
Tom?
Same thing, nothing here now.
Ian?
No comments.
By the way, Ann, you have an outstanding background,
Thank you.
much better than Selectman Goldberg, honestly, but to tell you the truth.
I like Al's background.
Right. Tom?
I already said no, thank you, but
Okay,
Al's
that's great.
background, is he related to the statue?
Well, you look at, yeah, what is this? Oh, the statue's got a mask on. Okay, look at, there is I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn our regular meeting. There is a personnel matter that we need to discuss in executive session. I don't think it'll be too long, but I would like to have a motion to have us adjourn our regular meeting and move into executive session.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
all right.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.